Hi, everyone, and welcome to just another episode of Conversation with Coaches. My name is Lubidia Samidze. I'm the founder of Upthink Coaching, a coach, trainer, mentor, and supervisor. And this is my passion project to meet coaches from all over the world and talk about what they do to show how diverse coaching can be. And today I'm very lucky to have the wonderful David Cory on the call. David is the founder of the emotional intelligence training company based in Canada. And today we are going to be talking about coaching around emotional intelligence. Hi, David.
Hi, Luba.
Would you like to introduce yourself in a few words? I'm sure you can do that better than I ever will.
Sure, yeah. So I am a coach and a trainer, and I've spent my whole career being fascinated with how people can be more effective. As it started out by working with managers and how they can be more effective as leaders within their organizations. But then I've come to learn and firmly believe that we are all leaders of our own lives, and that the lessons that we can gain from emotional intelligence are lessons that help us in every aspect of our lives, all of our relationships, both personal and professional, and help us do whatever it is that we want to do in life, and to help us to do that more effectively.
Lovely. And how long have you been coaching around emotional intelligence?
I started training first in the area of emotional intelligence, and that was in 1998 after doing many different types of jobs, doing different types of corporate training. I learned about this concept of emotional intelligence. What it helped me to understand specifically was how we assume that managers have basic personal and interpersonal skills before we teach them leadership skills, including some pretty complex technical skills like conflict resolution. And we assume that people have the ability to have conversations and clearly communicate and build relationships with people first, and that's just not the case for everybody. So when you're doing something complex like conflict resolution, you should be comfortable with yourself. You should be able to be assertive, to speak up, to express yourself clearly, and to have empathy for people that this is going to be difficult for them, or that it's going to be whatever it is for them. But without empathy, then you're not really paying attention to how they're experiencing something. And so again, the emotional intelligence framework that I learned about at a conference, which changed my life. As soon as I heard about it and learned that there was such a framework that is a foundation for human effectiveness, then I stopped what I was doing. I quit my job as a leadership trainer for a post-secondary institution that had a corporate training department, and I partnered with the company that published the world's first scientific assessment for emotional intelligence, and that's when it really started for me. And then while I was doing leadership training, many people wondered whether they could have more one-to-one time, and so I knew that was coaching, or I thought that was coaching, and so I started coaching without having any coach training, and then I decided at some point to take coach training and learned there was so much more to know that I did not know. I thought I was training, but I really was, I thought I was coaching, but what I was really doing was one-to-one training. And then when I
Yes.
learned about coaching, I learned about the power of asking powerful questions. And so I've been a coach and a trainer ever since.
Right. You see, I find it fascinating that you dedicated a huge chunk of your professional life to one topic, emotional intelligence. I think what really gets me interested in all these stories that I'm having with coaches as part of this project is how um, consistent they are with their niche, right? And I know that for many coaches, it's difficult to niche down just because, and I guess myself included, right? I have a range of topics that I often coach around, but I can't commit to one topic because it sounds, oh, I have a fear of missing out. There's so much interesting happening.
Mhm.
And so I'm curious, what still excites you about working with emotional intelligence after so many years?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess what I find so intriguing about emotional intelligence is that once people realize that this life of ours is experienced through our emotions, we don't have any other way of talking about life. That it really is about emotions, and we have some control to some extent over our own
Mm.
emotions because it's how we think about the stimuli in our environment. It's how we think about other people. It's how we think about life that determines how we feel about life, about people, about other things in our situations and circumstances that we find ourselves in. So to be more intelligent about emotions is to have an enhanced life. That we all need to learn more about emotions and how we live in an emotional world, that all of us are emotional creatures. And I like to quote Antonio Damasio, the famous neuroscientist, who said that we are not what we originally thought. We are not thinking, he used the word machines. He said, we're not thinking
Hmm.
machines that feel, we are feeling machines that think. This is what we know about the neuroscience, that our emotions drive behavior. There's no other way around it. To be intelligent about emotions is to have a bit of a superpower with respect to life. And of course, it creates this incredible foundation for leadership. And so that's how we've based our business. We called it the Emotional Intelligence Training Company at a time when emotional intelligence was relatively new.
Right.
It was really popularized in 1995. And this was the end of 1997, the beginning of 1998 when I got involved. In 1998, when I talked about emotional intelligence training, people they weren't sure what that was.
Yeah.
So we had to really talk about it as leadership training, leadership development. This is what people understood. So learning and development managers, talent management specialists, organizational development personnel, and coaches, they knew leadership development. And so we said, okay, we'll give you leadership development. And then we snuck in the idea of emotional intelligence at the same time. Then, as emotional intelligence grew in popularity, the calls started coming in from all over the world because of the name of our company, because they would type in emotional intelligence training, and that would be
Oh, that was very
three.
smart.
Yes, it was. Three of the words, you can see it over here. The three EIT, the emotional intelligence training is what they type into Google, and there we were. And so we have this incredible organic search benefit. And that was completely by accident because in 1998 we didn't know anything about search engine optimization. We weren't thinking about that.
Hmm.
So this has been a tremendous benefit to our company. Being one of the first companies to offer emotional intelligence training and coaching in the world, uh, we were the ones they found. And so as a result, we've worked with the most progressive companies in the world, all over the world.
So, David, when you have clients looking for emotional intelligence coaching, do they come to you and tell you that we want coaching around emotional intelligence, or do they want coaching around something else just because they don't have the right terminology for this? So, how does this happen?
Yeah, people find us because of the name, and so what they're looking for is they're looking for support and assistance and help with relationships, with communication, with dealing with the stressful situations that they find themselves in, and really just wanting to get a better handle on their emotions. That's one group of people. The other group are employers who contact us thinking that we can help them with an employee who has valuable technical skills that they don't want to lose. However, they don't treat other people very well, and they don't have good relationships with other people within the workplace. And so what this employer is looking for is they're looking to try to help this employee, usually a senior manager, senior executive of some kind, that they're willing to invest in, that they're thinking maybe emotional intelligence coaching can teach them how to be better with people and not be so hard on people, not treat people poorly, and so that they can keep their valuable technical skills. So there are those two groups.
So, are there any specific coaching topics around emotional intelligence that you particularly like to work with as a practitioner?
Well, we use this model, Luba, as you know. We use this model that consists of 15 discrete emotional
Yes.
intelligence skills, and those are the ones that it is the foundation or the basis for the inventory that we use, where someone can get an EQ score. So we want to understand their EQ better. So EQ, these 15 emotional skills, are all things that we learn throughout our lives, from our socialization, beginning with our families, and then our schooling, and culture has a lot to do with it. So the country that you grew up in has a lot to do with the extent to which you've learned these skills. So with the EQI, with the emotional quotient inventory, we're able to have people go online and learn more about to where they think they are on using this particular model. Then we're able to zero in on the exact places where they might want to improve in order to improve their effectiveness. And again, because we're a leadership development company, that's our focus. But it could be anything. And I also tell people that your personal life impacts your professional life, and so nothing is off the table for discussion. And so we are frequently talking about their personal lives. And once they get their personal life, once they have some order and feeling like they're more in control in their personal life, or they're better equipped to deal with what's going on in their personal life, then they're better at team players and leaders back in their organizations.
Right. So, what you mean is that every time a client comes to you for emotional intelligence coaching, you offer them to take a EQI, assessment, and then
Yes,
you do a debrief, and then based on the results of the debrief, you structure the rest of the coaching engagements
yes.
like this. The session, the report serves as an inspiration for them to pick topics.
It does, and a bit of a roadmap to follow as well. It really saves a lot of time because as a coach, you're already coaching emotional intelligence. Whoever is listening to this conversation right now, as a coach, you're already coaching emotional intelligence. You may not use those terms, but you are helping people to understand more about what it is that they want and what it is that they value and their priorities. And you're already helping them to appreciate the skills and the expertise and the knowledge that they have to offer, and helping them to feel more confident about using those skills. So that's one whole area of the model that we use. You'll do that anyway, whether you know the terminology of self-regard,
Yeah.
self-actualization, emotional self-awareness, or not. But using these terms, you can be very specific in talking about which aspect of emotional intelligence we're talking about, because self-perception is only one aspect, as you know, Luba, and self-expression is another. How do you, first of all, find your voice, and then how do you use your voice? Because the world needs your voice. It needs all of our voices in order to operate effectively. And so, really, the wheel model that we use is really just covering all aspects of emotional intelligence, to helping people to be to holistically be more aware and more intentional about what it is that they do, and to hopefully achieve their goals and get where they want to go.
Yeah, I think that was one of my motivations to get certified in EQI because I like how holistic the model is and how it unpacked different dimensions of emotional intelligence. Most of the time, when people, or at least when coaching clients refer to emotional intelligence, they mean something very direct. I want to be better at emotional management, right? For example, or I want to get less frustrated. I want to get more motivated. So, this aspect, maybe there are 3 or 4 skills related to emotional intelligence that are almost equivalent to emotional intelligence in many people's minds, right?
Hmm.
But actually, it's so big. I often compare this, the model of emotional intelligence according to EQI with coaching competencies. It's like when I say that I have coaching skills, people think that I have just one skill, which is coaching, right? But coaching is dozens of behaviors, right? And it's a group of skills. So it's like an umbrella term for a number of skills that contribute to successful, to doing coaching successfully. And emotion intelligence is the same. It's not just one skill, but it's a whole range of skills that make an emotionally intelligent person.
Yes. Yeah, and it is my humble opinion. I'm not a researcher or a scientist. I'm not a Harvard educated psychologist, and so nobody's going to really listen to me. But what I've come to believe after 30 years of doing this work is that there's just one intelligence, and it happens to be emotional. And how our brains work is the logic that we have available to us combines with our emotions to motivate us to take on certain things, to cause us to avoid or procrastinate or worry about others. And unless we get more intelligent about emotions, once again, we'll be less effective. And so this life is really all about getting a handle and understanding emotional intelligence. And beliefs play a huge role. So if you believe there's one way to live, you're just limiting yourself and restricting yourself. And we encounter this with cultures all over because we work with people all over the world. It's like, okay, so what has your culture taught you that is maybe limiting your emotional intelligence?
Mm.
A big belief that limits emotional intelligence is respect for elders. Now, I'm not against respect for elders, but sometimes elders are wrong. And when they are, we need to be able to tell them. And some cultures, that's not okay. You never do that and you don't do that. And so people are bullied and brutalized by elders for this reason. When really they have to say, stop, that's not acceptable. You can't treat me that way. And I'm doing something that you're going to disapprove of, but I'm doing it because it's my life. And so again, all beliefs were made up, and we need to challenge beliefs. We need critical thinking. Critical thinking is emotional because you're being critical of something, knowing that someone might not really like it. But we need to be able to engage in these critical conversations without disliking each other. It's a huge problem in North America right now, as you know. Our neighbors south of the border, there's two sides, and they can't talk about anything with each other because they hate each other too much. And it's so sad and unfortunate because the only way out of this mess is through this mess, and that is sitting down and really trying to understand the other without the hate and divisiveness. And that's just a huge, huge challenge. We need to really listen to each other. We need to try to learn from each other. It's not going to happen as long as people don't have this ability to think critically about things.
Yeah. Now, as you were talking, I have this question emerged because it's kind of a deeper work, right? With emotions, it's not a surface level work. Um, and I certainly know that it's effective to coach around emotion intelligence, but I guess, um, from your point of view, because you've been doing this for so long, does it help to add more kind of modalities to the mix? So when you do it, is it a mix of, say, coaching and training, or coaching and, I don't know, counseling, or, what's the best way to support people in increasing their emotional awareness and management and relationship with others?
Yeah, so sometimes I'll take off my coach hat and put on my training hat and give people some
Hmm.
information that's going to be helpful and that's going to support their learning and their development. With respect to counseling, as you know, it's not always a clear-cut line between coaching and counseling, and I don't really worry about that too much, but I know that other people do, and we just tell people who come for for training with us to learn how to be an emotional intelligence coach, to do what they're comfortable doing. And so people will talk about things that are maybe in their past. It may be a traumatic event or something that heavily influenced their lives. And that's usually a bit of a sign that maybe we're talking about counseling versus coaching.
Or
And
even
so
therapy,
or even
you
therapy.
know,
And
if
I
the
remind
past traumatic
people,
event.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I remind people that I'm not a therapist, I'm not a counselor, a psychologist, I'm a coach. But if they want to talk about something, I will be a listening ear because there's very little that I haven't heard, and I don't mind hearing something difficult or challenging or painful that someone has experienced if they choose to tell me. I'm not going to, play counselor or therapist. I might encourage them to see a counselor or therapist. I
Yeah.
think everybody in the world should have a counselor or therapist, but they don't. So I frequently talk about my own counseling and therapy and how helpful and supportive it's been for me in my own life, and just encourage them to consider if I think that they might benefit. But really, coaching, as you know, is all about action. It's all about the here and now, how we're going to get them to the next place that they want to go. And so we really try to stick to our specialty area of coaching when we're coaching.
No, no, that's great. Thank you for sharing. And I appreciate you drawing this distinction, right? Because when emotions emerge, I know as a mentor coach who listens to many recordings of coaching sessions that some coaches avoid working with emotions because they're not sure if they're crossing the line. And
Mm,
because I did emotional intelligence training before, and because I've myself been working with a therapist for years, and I clearly see the distinction between what a therapist
hmm.
does and what a coach does. And I know how
Yes.
to be a coach with emotions, not I won't be able to do what my therapist is doing, and I don't want to do that. I recorded a podcast episode earlier on my other podcast, Coaching with Confidence and Care, about coaching around emotions,
Hmm.
because I think it's such an essential element
Hmm.
in coaching work. It's such a value that coaches can bring, without re-traumatizing a person or going deeper into traumatic experience, just help them deal with what emerges here and now,
Hmm.
right?
Yes, absolutely. We don't want coaches to shy away. We don't, if you've built some trust with someone and they choose to disclose something to you, you don't want to look like a deer in the headlights and have them never tell another soul. You want to be there as as a supportive person that they
Yeah.
could talk to about it. Again, you're not going to play therapist or play counselor, but you can be a listening ear.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, coaches have emotions too, right? And those
Absolutely.
emotions emerge in coaching sessions. They have
Hmm.
no control over that.
Yes, absolutely.
So, in order to step into working with emotions, do you think a coach needs a prior preparation? Because I think emotions and paying attention to emotions, responding to emotions, being emotional intelligent, it's already embedded, at least in the ICF core coaching competencies. So they are visibly there, but at the same time, would coaches benefit from additional training, right? I know that your company provides a certification program around EQI, but if it's not EQI, um, does it benefit to have any extra, learning around emotional intelligence for coaches?
I think whatever coaches can learn about emotions and emotional intelligence, that's just going to be helpful for them in their coaching. I think that they're going to just know some basic things like it is rare, if ever, your client is going to be experiencing one emotion, and so it's important to when we ask the how do you feel about that question without using the feel word, when we say, what's that like for you, which is really the how are you feeling about it question, when we say, what's that like for you, and they say, it's frustrating, we be sure to say, and what else? What else is that like for you? And then they give us a second emotion. It's frustrating and it's kind of sad. And what else is that like for you? Knowing that again, we feel generally a blend of emotions. And so it's frustrating, it's sad, and I'm also really angry. Okay, what else is it like for you? Again, our job as coaches is to create awareness for our clients. And the more aware they are of the various emotions that they're experiencing, the more they can name it to tame it. You know, that old line, which is just so critical and important. When we say we're angry, when we say it out loud, when we're actually angry, apparently it lowers our cortisol level. So we know that from the neuroscience. So we need to be able to help people to name their emotions. And the little acronym that they have created at the Center for the Study of Emotional Intelligence at Yale is brilliant. And they use it for little kids. But if every adult knew it, RULER is the acronym, RULER. Recognize your emotions, understand your emotions, label your emotions. So the more we learn from lists of emotions that we print off the internet, the emotion wheel, the work of Robert Plutchik and his beautiful flower models, the more we can learn about emotions and help people to understand what they're feeling and why. Again, ruler is recognize, understand, label, express. So a burden shared is a burden halved. We don't have to carry our emotional burdens alone. We can share them with others and lighten that burden. Express is the E in ruler, and then finally regulate. In the model that we use, that's impulse control, right? Control your impulse to just, emote all over everybody,
Yeah.
and regulate that. Choose how and where and when and with whom you are going to appropriately express your emotions, so that again, you can unburden, that you don't have to have this running around in your head like a hamster wheel, that happens when we try to keep things inside and we don't deal with them.
Yeah, I really appreciate this example, and I think that was one of my main key takeaways from the training I took with you. Really, an illuminating moment that emotions come in combination. Because I guess I didn't think about that so consciously before, and I remember very clearly how either you or Mike said during the training. So when you put your hand in a box, you never know how many things you are going to pull out. And I borrowed this metaphor, full disclosure. I've used this metaphor so many times since I heard it, because that was so fascinating to learn for me as a coach. So emotions come in combinations. Are there any other important learnings, I guess, important lessons that a coach should know when they coach around emotional intelligence?
So many, and so the more books that we can read about this idea, one that I have read recently is Susan David's Emotional Agility. A fantastic book, lots of little tips and tricks and hints and things, and remember that lots of people are writing about emotional intelligence. They're just not necessarily using the term emotional intelligence. So Susan
Right.
David calls it emotional agility. And then there's Brene Brown and all of her wonderful books. So the more you can learn about shame, the more you can learn about empathy, the more you can learn about the Brene's book, The Gift of Imperfections. Right? That's all about self-regard, and how perfection is not a goal for us human beings. So all these little sayings and ideas could very well help our coaching clients. And again, we're really trying to stick to asking powerful coaching questions, but every once in a while we take off the coaching hat and put on the training hat and say, listen, this little nugget might just help you, and so we're going to give it to you. It's a lesson about emotions. It's a lesson that you didn't get in school, because we don't yet teach this in our school systems in a systematic way. We will in the future, but not yet.
Yeah. Oh, just because you mentioned it, I'm really tempted to ask. You mentioned shame, and I heard an opinion. Um, I guess from a psychologist, that shame is not one of the kind of basic or original emotions. It's like an emotion like shame and guilt. These are emotions imposed by society to regulate
Mm,
relationships or people,
mm-hmm,
right? So when people, and I think a shame topic does emerge, right? And it's a difficult one because, again, many coaches think that shame and guilt are topics for therapy, not for coaching. So,
mm,
being a coach with emotional intelligence, with knowledge around emotional intelligence, and being able to support your coaching client in this way,
mm-hmm,
what could be some ways to work with such difficult emotions, such as
mm.
shame or guilt?
Yeah, it's really not that complicated. There's just a very few things to understand to be able to support our clients. One of which is that guilt is it comes after regret. So you regret doing something. Um, when you feel guilty, you kind of feel bad that you did something that you maybe shouldn't have done. But then it's a bit of a continuum, and it could slide into shame, which as you probably know, Luba, and many people who are listening know, but we forget shame is feeling bad for who we are. That the fact that I did this thing says something about me as a human. And again, and then as Brene says, shame is the fear of disconnection. That now that I've done something, that nobody will want to be associated with me, that I'm going to lose all my connections. And this happened to me not too long ago. I had a proposal accepted to speak at a national speakers a conference that I belong to, and I thought, great, I'm going to try this thing that I had in my mind, and I tried it, and it bombed terribly. It was horrible. It did not go the way I wanted it to at all. Later on that day, I was talking with my adult daughter and my wife, who I work with. I work with both of them, and I was telling them about this experience, and my daughter said, "You're awfully quiet about this. What's going on for you?" And I started to talk about how I felt like I was isolated. I had kind of isolated myself from my professional community, and she said, "That sounds like shame." I said, "That's exactly what this is. I feel like what I did means that I can no longer be associated with that community, but I just made a mistake." And I immediately felt better. And this is the antidote to shame. Talking about it, talking
Uh,
about what it feels like, the fact that you chose to do what you did and it was a mistake and it was regrettable and you didn't mean to do it, but it doesn't speak to who you are. It was just something that you did. And again, the gifts of imperfection is all about the fact that perfection is not a goal for us human beings. We're going to mess up, we're going to make mistakes, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything about us. It's something we did, and we're human, and we're going to make mistakes.
yeah, that's interesting. I do a lot of intercultural work because I'm based in Asia, and there's an opinion that shame is more typical for individualistic cultures such as North America, say, and guilt is more typical for relational or collectivist cultures such as
Mm,
say Middle East or Asia. So
hmm
this fact of choosing what you chose for yourself could drive shame in one part of the world, like I don't belong, there's something wrong about me,
Yes,
and could
yes,
drive guilt in another part of the world, like
yes,
I disconnected from the community, I don't
hmm
belong, right? So more kind of
yes,
community oriented mindset, which is very interesting.
hmm hmm
So
And I just
David,
think
as
yeah,
go
the
ahead.
more we learn, the more we coaches learn about these things. And again, it's not going to come from one place. It's going to come from different courses and different books and different teachers, and we just need to learn more, so that again, we're in a good place to recognize it in our clients and understand why they think the way they do, why they believe what they believe. Help them to understand that their beliefs may be something that they need to modify, that again, I think that all beliefs were made up, and so they can be changed. They're not easy to change, but we can change them if they're not serving us.
Yeah, so I came across a research some time ago that explained exactly this process. So it said that neurons first hit the emotional centers. So an emotion is born, and then, and only then, they go to the neocortex, right? Which means that emotion appears first, and then we try to rationalize it. Yeah, I know that there are different opinions probably in the scientific community around how this exactly happens, but I think I can relate to this explanation and see it for myself this way as well. That emotion
Hmm.
is primary, and then we do our best at explaining it.
Yes, and for those who are really interested, uh, a must read is Lisa Feldman Barrett's book, How Emotions Are Made. It's not easy to
Awesome.
read. It's very dense scientific reading, but it talks about just what you're talking about. And she challenges decades of research on emotions and talks about the role of culture. The fact that different cultures feel different ways in response to different and have different words in their own languages for different circumstances, and I think that all of that is fascinating.
It does sound fascinating. I got this question. Since you said that you typically start a coaching engagement by offering an EQI profile to your clients, I'm curious if you see any patterns. So, are there any dimensions, any subscales that you see to be higher, like typically higher, in recent years, or typically lower in recent years? I know that every client is unique and the combination of the, results is always unique, but I'm curious if there are any trends that you see because you do this regularly.
Yes, absolutely. The what where we're doing our coaching is in the context of the evolution in leadership away from an authoritarian command and control autocratic style of leadership to a more collaborative, participative, partnering with people to get work done. And I can I when I see a particular EQI profile, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so this person is more of a traditional leader. And frequently they're in a more scientific or analytic or technical field, and they really operate on their independence, on their self-actualization. They usually love what they do. They're really quite assertive because they're used to being directive, and if you're being directive, you're typically more assertive. They have high self-regard. They because their technical skills serve as an objective measure of their worth. But they may be lower on empathy, lower on emotional self-awareness and expression. These things are less important to them because in more hierarchical, autocratic workplaces, emotions are less important. We don't really care how you feel. We pay you a good salary, so you just do what we tell you to do. And that's old school. That's old style. That's going out of style. And organizations all over the world are trying to figure out how to resource their leaders, how to teach their managers more about relationships and clear communication and empowerment. Because in empowered workplaces, people are more creative, they're more innovative, they feel more psychologically safe to bring their best ideas to work and to that workplace. But in the more traditional workplaces, they keep to themselves. They don't look forward to coming to work as much. They stay pretty quiet from 9 to 5 and look forward to quitting time when their real life begins in their minds. But that doesn't have to be the case, and certainly it is changing with the younger generations coming into the workplace. They're saying, no, I
Course.
want this to be social, I want this to be fun, and they will figure out a way to make it social and fun. And so the older people who are still clinging to this old way have to change. And it's
Okay.
hard.
Yeah,
It's not
that
easy.
makes total sense. Yes. Yes, that's quite interesting. Thank you for sharing. As we're nearing the end of our conversation, I'm curious what other recommendations you could probably give to coaches who consider diving deeper into emotion intelligence and probably choosing this as their niche?
Sure, absolutely, and it's still it's still a wonderful niche because companies are it's coming to the attention of companies that are wanting to be more progressive, and then they're going to ask around. They're going to be looking for EQ coaches, and by EQ, of course, we just mean, and I know you know this, Luba, but EQ is a measure of how well or how poorly you're using the emotional intelligence that you have, and so we kind of use these terms interchangeably. We say EQ and EI. So people are going to be looking for EQ and EI coaches, and so it's important to have it listed as something that you specialize in, that you can do. And so whatever courses, programs, books you can take, and there's a lot of great ones out there, are going to be beneficial for coaches who want to, expand, particularly their corporate market reach, because the corporate market is really looking for emotional intelligence and EQ coaches.
That's great. Good. That's very reassuring. And that's good to hear. And I think even here in Asia, it's becoming more and more popular, because this part of the world is usually more reserved and more maybe conservatives when it comes to discussing emotions, especially in the workplace.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So thank you so much for this conversation, David. That was very insightful. Thanks for mentioning all those wonderful books and resources. I'm definitely the one who'll be checking those out. So for everyone, thanks for watching. We'll be putting all the information about David and the Emotional Intelligence Training Company in the episode description. So if you want to reach out to David in particular, or anyone at his company, if you are interested in what they do, please use the links in the episode description to do so.
Thank you, Luba.
Thank